Welcome to the Let's Talk Memory section. So first, we are going to discuss in this particular video about the types of memory. Yes, you got me right. Let's talk about sensory memory, which is the first and shortest form of memory and takes in information through your five senses. Sensory memory has no storage capacity. It is a temporary holding cell for sensory information. And that sensory memory, which is triggered by visual stimuli, is known as iconic memory. The sensory memory that is triggered by touch is known as the haptic memory. And the sensory memory that is triggered by oral stimulus is known as echoic memory. Let's talk about when we are getting to know about so much of memory, then we should know about the short-term and the long-term memory. Then short-term memory is also called primary or active memory because it takes in the frontal lobe of the brain and it touches down in the hippocampus. So as well as not being able to retain information for a long period, the amount of information you can retain in your short-term memory is equally limited. As an example of short-term memory, it's like remembering the beginning of a paragraph while reading the rest so that information can be processed and a logical connection can be formed between all the words, the patterns, the sentences. So it's worth making a note here because there are differences between the two, like working memory and which we also called as short-term memory. Depends upon how we make use of that. Although both are intertwined and neither holds information for a long time, short-term memory simply stores information while working memory stores and uses it. A good example of working memory is listening to a teacher speak while taking notes in our own words. It's a very common example that we have. Now, coming to the next section is the long-term memory. Now, what is long-term memory? Because we know it as something that holds information for a longer period. That's very common, and it is even for a longer period than the sensory or the short-term memory. And it is there for the final and semi-permanent stage of memory. The processes of consolidating and storing long-term memories have been particularly associated with the prefrontal cortex of our brain, the cerebrum, the frontal lobe, and the medial temporal lobe as well. However, what's fascinating is that after consolidation, long-term memories appear to be stored throughout the brain. Now, it can be broken down into two categories, explicit and implicit memory. Let's talk about explicit memory first. It is also known as conscious or declarative memory. So don't get confused with like, explicit memory is very different from declarative memory because they are interchangeably used. And it is a type of memory that needs a conscious effort to be recalled. It is defined as the memory recall of facts, figures, and so it is also called as knowing what memory because information and data that is stored explicitly and needs to be recalled overtly. You need to know what is there. So it is divided into, again, two memories, that is episodic and semantic memory. I'm talking about explicit memory, right? So episodic memories is a kind of explicit memory. It stores our recollection of certain events and experiences in our lives and allows us to recall details connected with that event. Like our emotions play a vital role in remembering and recording some events in our long-term memories. Some examples of episodic memory can be the first day of a new job, our first salary, how we spend it, our first time holiday to say Italy with our friends, with our parents, with our loved ones, or a disaster, a catastrophe. We remember them because we have experienced them, right? Semantic memory is it's unlike episodic memory, which is linked to personal emotions and experience. Because semantic memory is the recall of general and common facts and information, such as the phonics of the letter, the sounds of the letters, the states in India, and the different sounds of the keys of a piano or guitar or harmonium, any instrument. So simply to state it, it is associated with the recollection of general knowledge when we talk about semantic memory. So now from explicit memory, this is all about explicit memory, the basic idea about the explicit memory. Now coming to implicit memory. It is also called as procedural memory because it is a memory that involves procedures for completing actions or complete actions. These actions, they develop with practice over time and they do not require a conscious effort to be recalled. Like, for example, I can give you uh, driving a car or riding a bike. When you learned it, you learn through your practice, and then when you really learn to drive a car, then you don't have to put an effort or endeavor to drive a car because you have already learned by practice. Another example, like tying a shoelace or doing your daily activities, like after getting up, what you don't have to push yourself to brush your teeth. You just do it. You don't have to tell each and everything which tooth to brush, and you can go with it, right? Because you have already practiced that. Performing a dance step, playing an instrument, learning to walk, learning to swim, all these are into implicit memory. So, implicit memory allows us to remember skills and movements that are embedded in our brain so deeply that we might not even be aware of remembering them. So, it allows us to perform activities that once learned completely and wholly, they do not have to be learned again. So, children under the age of 7 mostly, they rely more on the procedural memory practice. This really reminds me of B.F. Skinner's, the practice that he practiced with animals. And so this is about the implicit memory. And adults, they have to be noted to use declarative memory to learn and process new information, not in case of children. So that's how implicit memory is different from explicit memory that we have come again. Now let us get into the last part of our section, and that is retrospective and prospective memories. Very interesting ones. And, these two types of memories, they can be either explicit or they can be implicit also. They're so connected. Now, retrospective memory, when we talk about them, then it is mostly about the recollection of words, phrases, sentences, happenings, occurrences, and experiences that happened in a person's past. Past. I'm not talking about past life or something, a person's past. So it is usually the amalgamation, the admixture, the blend of semantic, explicit, and implicit, then episodic and autobiographical memories, own experiences. So that is retrospective memory. Whereas when we talk about prospective memories, then they are linked with the future. Retrospective is linked with the past experiences, whereas prospective memories, they are linked with the future experiences. Not experiences, but prospectively, the prospects, what is about to happen. Okay, and they are activated when remembering something to be done in the future. It is triggered by cues such as remembering to call a friend by seeing the phone, or suppose you are outside somewhere and you're very busy, you have been busy with your friends, and you are late at night for a party, and then you got to call your parents, and just by looking at someone who is picking up the phone, you just remember that yes, you need to call your parents right now, and then immediately you do it because your future action is being triggered, is being reminded to you what you need to do. So this way, it helps us. Prospective memories, they help us to do our future actions, the performance at that particular moment. So prospective memory is that whatever you need to do in the future, you just get to know it all of a sudden by looking at a particular things, by seeing a particular thing, by hearing a particular sound, by smelling. It can be anything. It can be triggered by any cue. It happens, and then you get to know about it. You get to do it. So it has been observed that at certain times retrospective and prospective memories are linked, are connected, and they do not function as separate entities. But in certain cases, where a retrospective memory has been impaired or damaged, it has significant impact on the prospective memories as well. But similarly, it has also been observed that in certain cases or case studies, the damaged prospective memory has no impact on retrospective memory. So it is intertwined together as well, and it is separate. but it depends upon the kind of impairment in the patient or in the person who is suffering from that particular problem. So that was about the how retrospective and prospective memories, they work. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. Namaskar. We'll talk a lot about memories and how to improve our memories. So keep tuned. Namaskar.